So let me just state the obvious. Things have been crazy lately for markets, for Tesla, big up moves, big down moves. That's kind of categorized the last 2 months specifically for Tesla stock, going from $140 per share, technically the low was $138 per share, up to $271, back down to the low 180s, back up again to almost $200 per share, all in the last 2 months. Now, there's some catalysts we have coming for Tesla, specifically the Robotaxi event, but there's also others that I think you should know as soon as possible as well to really put these back on your radar. And here in this video, I want to specifically discuss my expectations from now until October 10th and throughout the rest of this year. Do I still think Tesla can reach new all-time highs by year end in light of this recent volatility that we have seen in markets? And I just want to be honest with you guys. Tesla will not hit all-time highs if the economic data continues to worsen. If it starts to look like recession risks are rising and the markets start to price that in, Tesla stock can go higher still from current prices, but it's not going to be all-time highs by the end of this year. Now, depending on the economy, that's really going to determine if 2025 is a good year for Tesla. If rates fall and the economy holds up and the soft landing narrative prevails, 2025 is going to be a stellar year for Tesla, and I would expect some big gains. If we slip into a recession or if recession risks start to rise, then that's problematic. I want you guys to really keep in mind what happened during 2022. I think a lot of us had a slap in the face during 2022 because we did not expect what happened. We went from pricing in 3 Fed cuts in early, 2022 to getting like 3 rate cuts a meeting at one point. We were getting 75 basis point rate hikes back to back. And that really shocked the markets, and that was bad. At the same time, recession odds at one point in October actually hit 100%. That was when the S&P came down to the 200-day moving average, eventually bottomed out. This was a peak to trough decline of about 26.5%. That was rough. And that was without a recession. Okay. That's why I think the context is important. Markets have rallied a lot on this soft landing narrative. If indeed we start to price in any kind of material chance of a recession, you're going to fall a lot. Okay. Just to get back to October lows from today's prices would be a fall of 36%. Even to get back to like where you were during the bear market rally in August of 2022, around 420 on the SPY, that would still be a fall of almost 21% from here. So I think there is a lot of risk if the economy does turn down, if recession odds do start to rise. Judging off of where markets are now, I think there's probably 5 to 10% odds of a recession being assigned by the markets. And I want to start with this because I think it's the focal point of what happens over the next 12 months for Tesla. It all comes down to economic activity, economic data, and ultimately whether or not recession risks rise. Again, you don't have to go into a recession to see a lot of downside. In 2022, we were not declared in an actual recession, and we've seen a lot of downside. And even, Q1, Q2, yes, you were negative because of inventories, mainly for GDP. But that's not when we actually hit the lows. We actually hit the lows in Q4, right? In October, we actually hit lows. So after markets had already said, hey, that was not a recession. We're good, right? So I think that's important specifically for Tesla because Tesla is an interest rate sensitive company, but it's also very cyclical, right? Tesla's like the best of all worlds or the worst of all worlds. It's interest rate sensitive. It's economically, cyclical. That just means cyclical, by the way, in case someone does not know. That just means it's cyclical with the economy. If we go into a recession, Tesla's guaranteed going to do bad. if we have an expanding economy like 2021 or 2022, even underlying economic activity was okay during that time, you're going to see Tesla do well. So it booms, it busts alongside the economy. And that's just what cyclical means. And that's Tesla by definition. So that's important to understand. Beyond just what Tesla does, the numbers Tesla puts up, that's important. Now, Tesla will be helped out a lot throughout the rest of this year, just based on interest rates falling. Because as Tesla is offering these lower interest rate promotions, they have to buy down the interest rate. Now, as TLT, for an example, 10-year treasury yields fall, that's less of an interest rate Tesla needs to buy down. So as bond yields fall, that's actually in real time accretive to margins. Now, we don't know what kind of structure of deals Tesla is doing with banks, presumably Wells Fargo. They do a lot of business with Wells Fargo as far as financing, but it should have a lockstep, higher margin as bond yields fall. And bond yields have fallen quite a bit recently. So I think that's one underlooked thing that Wall Street's really not even accounting for at this point. Margins could actually be improving for Tesla in real time. Okay, so I think that's a positive for potentially this next upcoming quarter's earnings. Now, I also think there's some other catalysts that we should be aware of. If you guys remember this, I did this at the beginning of the year. These were catalysts for 2024. Better selling of the Model 3 in the US. It looks like that is happening. Smoother Cybertruck ramp. It looks like that is happening. Halo effect is questionable. I think that's going to take a bit of time, so I think that's still to be determined. Faster than expected Model 2. We got that, right? That cheaper model we were again expecting in 2025, late 2025, 2026. Now we're getting it early 2025. So that happened. Tesla raising prices later in 2024. That has not happened yet, and I would expect that only happens if the economy remains strong. FSD entering Europe. That looks like it's quite a bit away at this point due to really the regulatory environment in Europe. But FSD entering China. That has not happened yet, but it looks like that could be happening soon. We got the safety report out today that shows autopilot in China is even safer than autopilot in the US. It's 10 times safer than a human driver, which is, even safer than a human driver in the US. So I think it's only a matter of time, potentially weeks, if not just a couple of months before FSD enters China. And that can be a big catalyst for Tesla stock at this point, because you need FSD to enter China before Robotaxi enters China. So FSD enters China, that's great for margins, take rates, FSD, all of that, which is 90+% net bottom line margins. But it's also a big step forward to getting robotaxis into the country. Now, Tesla talking positive on AI, that has definitely happened. Tesla providing guidance has not happened. Elon's comp package with high market cap tiers, that has not happened, but you did get Elon's package reinstated. I do think we will get a new comp plan coming about here in the next couple of months. So I think that's another big catalyst that is still to come in 2024 from now until the end of this year. Lower price of FSD, Tesla did that. FSD free trial, Tesla did that. Licensing off of FSD, that still has not happened. So that looks like it could be a little bit down the line still. And then Tesla layoffs. So that happened. So many of these catalysts have already happened. But some of the big ones, like Tesla entering China's for FSD, that has not happened. The licensing of FSD, that has not happened. New Elon comp package, that has not happened. Tesla potentially raising prices later in 2024. That has not happened. And I do think these are reasonable catalysts that could be coming soon. Now, since that was made the beginning of this year, you may remember the video. We went over this. You may not. Doesn't matter. We now have the Robotaxi event, which was originally scheduled for today, August 8th. So I think it's kind of a good time to make this video. Now the new date is October 10th. We've known about this new date for a while. The problem with Tesla stock right now is that we rallied a lot, we fell a lot in the beginning of 2024, and we've fallen a lot since, you even hit the highs of $271, and you still have a little over 2 months until this catalyst will actually be here. You've fallen 27.5% from that 271 level. I think you're much better balanced at these prices. Now, what tends to happen normally for Tesla is Tesla tends to rally into events and then sell off after them. Okay, so I think the easiest way to kind of game plan this for Tesla, specifically around the event itself, if we rally into it, we probably sell off after. If we sell off into it, we probably rally after that event. I personally think we're probably going to rally into that event. Now, I would find it quite plausible that Tesla could rally to the 230s, potentially 240s or 250s before that event itself. So I think there is a trade potentially around that, at least in the short term for Tesla. People are going to get excited about this Robotaxi event. And especially if FSD enters China before then, we're really going to get excited for the Robotaxi event, because then we may have, new details, right? On maybe the timeline ahead for Robotaxi in China. There was news that came out yesterday that Mercedes just had a license granted to them to basically test some Robotaxi services or level 4 autonomy services over in China. That is not a license that Tesla has yet. That's why FSD is not in China. I think it's fair to say FSD is far superior to Mercedes technology. So I think it's only a matter of time. And I think when that happens, probably soon, we've seen some comments from Elon Musk in recent weeks that they're currently trying to get FSD in other foreign markets. We heard a lot about that on the earnings call. I mean, what are they talking about? They're talking about China, right? That's what they're talking about. We know Europe still, down the line a little bit. FSD entering China is going to be massive for Tesla stock, especially before the Robotaxi event, if that does happen. And I would expect that could cause that rally again into potentially even the 250s. I want to remind you, it depends how the economy is doing. Today was a good day because initial jobless claims came in 7,000 lower than expected. Like there actually is quite a bit of concern right now about the state of the economy, about the state of the labor market. So if we can get some good data for the economy, then Tesla's going to follow that. Tesla's going to go higher on that. If things look like they're getting worse, Tesla stock's going to go lower on that. But I do think by the end of this year, we're going to have a little bit more clarity on the economy, a potential soft landing, hard landing, and specifically really heading into September 18th, the Fed meeting, the next Fed meeting, we're expecting 50 basis points of rate cuts. I think, again, back to the economy, if we're getting good economic data around that time, the markets are going to rally on the first Fed cut. If we're getting bad economic data, the markets are going to sell off on the first Fed cut. Historically, markets fall about 23-ish% when the Fed cuts rates the first time. That's normally because the Fed is cutting into weakness. If the Fed is not cutting into weakness, that's going to be very positive for Tesla and very positive for really interest rate sensitive cyclicals potentially. So I still think new all-time highs by the end of this year is possible. I'm just a little concerned about the eventual recession we will go into. The timing around this is very difficult, okay? Very difficult. Like timing the economy and data that is manipulated, seasonally adjusted, if you want to call it that. I like to call it manipulated, is very hard to do. It's one of the hardest things to do. Time the markets, again, one of the hardest things to do. We've been pretty good at that here on this channel. But if I were to put this into like a probability metric, I would say there's probably a 60% chance that by the end of this year, there's growing recession risks and markets are lower than they are today. I would say there's a 40% chance that markets are higher than where they are today, that small caps and interest rate sensitive stocks rally. Now, you may be of a different view than I am. You may be flip-flopped. You may think there's a 60% chance the economy holds up as the Fed cuts rates and markets are higher by the end of the year. Historical data would suggest markets are going to be higher by the end of this year. The VIX spiking to 65 only happens around bottoms, right? That suggests markets are going to be up 28% a year from now. And I do think that is possible. But in the very near term, I think weaker economic data is slightly more likely than, better economic data. But again, you could think or have a different view of that. And that's fine. I'm fully in Tesla, ready to take advantage of a dip if we get one, but I haven't sold any Tesla stock. As I showed you guys about 3 minutes into the video that came out at 4 p.m. today, I showed my Tesla position. I haven't bought any puts on it. I haven't sold any. I haven't bought any either, right? So I'm fully positioned to take advantage of this, and that's the full transparency here. I do have my full position in Tesla that I will never sell. I mean, I said this before. If you're 40, 50 years old now, which is the vast majority of this viewer base is between 35 and 65 years old. I mean, I can only speak for myself, but I would be, I don't want to say pissed off, but at one point in time, I would have been pissed off when I first started investing. If I was a little bit older and I missed Apple, I missed Google, I missed some of these great innovations that were right in front of me at the time, right? I try to put myself in that perspective. And right now, I see Tesla as one of those great innovation stories that 10, 20 years from now, even 5 years from now, I think you're going to look back and say, I should have just bought any price as much as I possibly could have. Tesla by then is going to be $1,000, $2,000 plus per share. And, I don't want to be in that situation personally where I regret not buying or holding the stock for that matter. So I think longer term, clearly nothing, to worry about. But I do think in the short term, potentially even a short-term upside trade heading into October 10th could also make a lot of sense for some of the traders out there. Maybe options, perhaps. That's not financial advice. That's not a recommendation. That just looks attractive at this point after we've seen a 27, almost 28% fall. Could we get some of that back between now and October? I think so. Now, the biggest thing that actually matters about the Robotaxi event itself is what is the projected guidelines for the Robotaxi. The markets, they want guidance. They want something definitive, something they can start to model. Elon Musk said on the last earnings call he would be surprised if we did not have, Robotaxi services by the end of this year. So that was kind of guidance, but nothing definitive. And the markets, they want some guidance. So I think even around October or new all-time highs, I think it's as simple as to say, do we get Robotaxi guidance? Like, I don't even care if it's 2026. Do we get Robotaxi guidance? Is there something Wall Street can start to model? That's number one. And number two, what's happening with the economy and the economic data? If the economy and the economic data looks okay, there's no more, growing recession fears, and we get guidance for the start of the Robotaxi network, Tesla's all-time highs by the end of this year, easily. $500-$600 per share would look likely in that scenario, maybe higher than that in 2025. That's all it really comes down to between now and year end for Tesla. And again, even in 2025. Keep in mind, I'm more skewed towards hard landing. I'm not as skewed as a hard towards a hard landing than like a Jamie Dimon, JP Morgan CEO. So if you think I'm bearish, he's really bearish because he thinks there's a 65% chance, 65% chance that we have a hard landing. I'm not that high, but I do think recession risks can grow from here. So let me know what you think about this down below in the comment section. I know there's been a lot of volatility in Tesla, and I know a lot of people probably wanted my perspective again on Tesla and potential new all-time highs by the end of this year. Today was a slight win, like a very slight win for the bulls, with initial jobless claims coming in lower than expected. But markets really want to see some hard data, personal spending data, durable goods orders. We want to see manufacturing data start to rebound, services continue to come in strong. And if we get that, then Tesla is going to do very well over the next couple of months. If we get a worsening outlook for the economy, Tesla is not going to do as well. But I think you have fallen a lot in a very short amount of time. And even to see a rebound rally of 10, 15% would not surprise me. And again, it would not surprise me if Tesla is a $250 stock, at least heading into the Robotaxi event on October 10th. So those are kind of my perspectives. And again, two things that matter: Robotaxi guidance and the economy. If we get Robotaxi guidance and the economy's doing okay, at the same time the Fed is cutting rates, potentially 50 basis points at the next couple of meetings, both of those things can give Tesla a lot of upside and help send the stock to new all-time highs by the end of this year. So let me know what you think about this information down below in the comment section. Hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. If you guys do want to come trade with us live in real time, we've had a lot of great trades recently. Check out that link down below in the description of this video. Nonetheless, you guys have a great rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one.